Welcome to The Critique. So today's material is a script about how learning English opened up a whole world for the hosts, Paul and Emily. We're talking careers, travel, even just fixing things around the house.
Right, and it's aimed at A2 level learners on YouTube. Let's dive in.
Okay, so the core idea, English opening doors, that's really strong. You can feel the host's passion for it.
Absolutely, it really shines through. But for a script made for an online audience where attention spans are, well, they're short, we need to look at that opening.
So the way it sets things up now is with Emily's first big memory. She talks about traveling, being able to ask for directions, just chat with people. It's a nice starting point.
It is a nice starting point. It's foundational. But, we have to ask ourselves, how many times have we heard that exact story?
That's a fair point. And it brings us right to our first piece of feedback. The discussion, while it's really encouraging, feels a little bit familiar at the start.
It does. It kind of misses a chance to hook you with a really high-stakes, unique angle right away.
Exactly. When you open with the most common story, the traveler asking for directions, you kind of risk getting lumped in with every other basic language channel out there.
And the thing is, the script has these amazing high-impact stories later on, like Paul leading this huge international project, or Emily fixing a washing machine. Why are we saving the best stuff for last?
I see what you mean. So the opening gives you this feeling of low-stakes comfort. But the real power of the script is in showing these really high-stakes, useful moments.
Precisely. You want to hook the listener by showing them the absolute top end of the potential benefit. So our suggestion is to basically flip the structure.
Okay.
Reframe the whole opening. Front-load the most significant, the most specific outcome, and then use those simpler, more familiar examples as supporting evidence.
That makes a ton of sense. You're showing the A2 learner, hey, this isn't just about your next vacation. This could actually change your life.
Exactly.
But is there a risk there? If you start with something as big as leading an international project, could that feel intimidating for an A2 learner?
That's a really good question, and it's a calculated risk, I think, but one that's necessary for originality. We're not telling them they need to do that tomorrow.
Right.
We're using that story as a magnet, to create that initial, wow, okay, I need to listen to this.
Okay, so let's look at the options in the script. They have the professional growth angle and this extreme practicality angle.
And they should pick one of those to anchor the opening. So, if they go with the career ambition, they open with Paul's story, but make it punchy.
How would that sound?
Something like, my first real door opened, not on a tourist map, but in a boardroom. I got the chance to lead a huge international project because my English was strong enough to run complex meetings and, just as importantly, write these really persuasive emails.
Wow, okay. That immediately raises the stakes. It signals this is for serious learners.
It does. And if they want to lean into the other side, that unexpected practicality, they should go with Emily's story. I honestly think that one is just gold.
Me too. It's so good.
Because it's so relatable, but also surprising. You open with something like, English literally saved me money last week. It let me find a step-by-step video that showed me exactly how to fix a major problem with my washing machine.
That's brilliant. It shows English isn't just for communication. It's a tool for, survival, for real-life problems.
And then, once you have that hook, that high-impact anchor, then you bring in the familiar stories about meeting friends or ordering coffee.
So those stories become the proof, the relatable steps that got them to that bigger outcome.
Exactly. It completely flips the script. Lead with the amazing result, then show the small, achievable steps that led there.
Okay, that's a really strong point on the opening. Shifting gears a bit, let's talk about the dynamic between the hosts, between Emily and Paul. The tone is so supportive, so celebratory. Which, for an A2 audience, you need that encouragement, right? They're always saying things like, wow, that's a huge opportunity, or that sounds like a movie.
And Paul mentions he was very shy and afraid to make mistakes, so they're trying to build that connection.
They are. But all that positive feedback, it's well-intentioned, but it kind of lacks friction. When every story is met with this huge praise, the emotional arc just sort of flattens out.
Yeah, it feels a little too polished.
Which leads us to our second point, The tone is consistently positive, which is great for A2 learners, but it reduces the sense of emotional investment and narrative depth.
The core issue here is that they talk about overcoming shyness, but they don't really give the struggle the weight it deserves. That moment where the door is jammed shut.
Right.
And a polished success story just doesn't feel as credible as an earned victory. The listener at home, who is probably struggling, they need to hear about the specific pain points, not just the happy ending.
Wait, hold on though. We're talking A2 learners here. Don't we want to give them maximum encouragement? Is there a risk we might demotivate them by focusing on failure or embarrassment?
That's a fair challenge, but we're not saying dwell on the negative. We're talking about integrating constructive vulnerability.
Okay.
We need to show small, specific points of conflict to make the success feel real, feel earned. If you just gloss over the hard parts, the listener might think, well, my struggle is way worse than theirs. Maybe I can't do this.
So the vulnerability is actually the bridge to making it more credible.
Absolutely. So the suggestion is to integrate a moment of specific, brief failure, or maybe high-stakes pressure, into one of the anecdotes.
And that makes the success feel earned, and it gives context for the growth they're talking about.
It transforms it from, I was good at this, to, I struggled with this, and that struggle led to a breakthrough.
Okay, so how do they do that without, killing the positive vibe?
It would need to be very precise. Let's go back to Paul's big project. Instead of just saying he felt comfortable, he could describe a specific minor mistake in a high-pressure meeting.
Like what?
I don't know, maybe he confused a key business term, like bandwidth, and there was just this awkward silence in the room.
Oh, yeah. That moment of embarrassment is the key ingredient.
Exactly. And then he pivots right away. He says, and that embarrassing moment, it wasn't a setback. It was the trigger. It forced me to go home and really study business idioms that night, which is why I now know how important context is.
That's so much more powerful than just saying, I was shy, but now I'm not.
It shows the mechanism of improvement.
What about for Emily's stories? She talks about cultural exchange online.
Right. She focuses on the fun parts. But she could contrast that with a moment of real friction. Maybe a friendly argument about a cultural topic where the language barrier made things really tense for a minute.
Where both people felt misunderstood.
Yes. And it would link back perfectly to her point about English helping her become more flexible and adaptable.
Because that adaptability was required to solve a minor conflict, not just something she learned passively.
Show the struggle and the growth becomes undeniable. It moves the script from just being inspirational to being a real mentorship conversation.
And that really validates what the listener is going through every day. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the segments. The hosts do a great job of highlighting these outcomes, accessing blogs, watching TV without subtitles, the washing machine fix.
But then the conclusion is often this very general advice, Keep practicing, keep learning.
Yeah.
And after these amazing specific stories, that kind of general ending, it feels like pulling the rug out. It gives you all this inspiration but no roadmap.
Which is where our third critique comes in. The material shows these great outcomes, but it misses the chance to turn those stories into specific, repeatable practice methods for that A2 audience.
Yes, that's the disconnect. The listener knows what happened, but they have no clear instructions on how they can use their own limited A2 skills to get a similar result.
It leaves them inspired but paralyzed, right? The task feels too big.
Exactly. So the suggestion is to take one of those practical anecdotes and actually deconstruct it into a concrete, measurable challenge, an exercise tailored for a beginner before they move on.
So you're building a bridge from, wow, that's cool, to, okay, here's one small thing I can do right now.
Precisely. It provides immediate, actionable value.
Let's brainstorm some of those. So for the sustainable living blogs, what's the A2 level homework?
Okay, so instead of just saying, read blogs, they need to model the process for a struggling learner.
Right.
Only for the nouns. Forget the verbs. Forget the adjectives for now. Just focus on figuring out the main idea.
I love that. It lowers the frustration level and it prioritizes just getting the gist, which is a huge mental block for students at that level.
Totally.
Okay, what about the washing machine story? That one's very visual.
That one's perfect for pivoting to listening practice. The challenge could be find an English tutorial for a simple visual task. making a specific coffee, tying a knot, whatever. And try to follow the steps using only the English commands you hear. Twist, insert, pull.
So you're creating this immediate physical feedback loop. You hear the command, you do the action, the visual context fills in the gaps.
It turns a hard listening task into a game.
Okay, last one. Getting away from subtitles. That feels like a very advanced goal, not an A2 task. How do you make that actionable?
You can't just say, watch without subtitles. You have to scaffold it.
So a step-by-step process.
Right. The challenge could be pick one short episode of an A2-friendly show, like an animated series. Watch it once with your native language subtitles to understand the story. Then immediately watch it again, but this time with no subtitles at all.
And the key instruction there has to be that you're not trying to understand 100%.
No, not at all. You tell them, just focus on the main action, the flow of the dialogue. You're training your ear for the rhythm of the language, not taking a vocabulary test. It lowers that barrier to entry.
This is great. I mean, these changes really take the script from just being encouraging to being, well, structurally solid, emotionally resonant, and super actionable.
I think so too.
So, to just quickly summarize the actionable points for the hosts. First, they need to re-anchor that opening with a high-impact, unexpected story.
Right, the promotion or the apply it's fix. Get that originality and those stakes up right at the start.
Second, they should introduce more of that constructive vulnerability, those specific challenges, the moments of friction, to make the success feel more earned and genuine.
Deepen that emotional engagement.
And finally, they absolutely have to convert those successful outcomes into clear, repeatable exercises for their A2 audience.
Bridge that gap between inspiration and practice. The core material is already so good, and these changes will just add the rigor and depth it needs to really stand out.
We really are eager to see how you refine the material with these suggestions.
Definitely. Please, implement this feedback and send in your next iteration for another critique when you're ready.
We look forward to seeing your enhanced work.